Hey man, see you on the flip side.
So over the years, there have been many attempted Leprechaun movies. There have been a couple sequels that made it further than others, and a couple others that are just concepts between maybe actors or previous directors. I'm going to briefly talk about all four of them. Up first, we have the concept Leprechaun in the White House. Now, this would have originally been the fifth film in the franchise, and I gotta tell you, it's the one I would want to see the most out of all these films, but at the same time, I'm glad it didn't happen, strictly because if it didn't, we wouldn't have Leprechaun in the Hood.
A friend with weed is a friend indeed.
Brian Trenchard Smith, the director of Leprechaun 3 and 4 in Space, which I love, was the catalyst for this, you know? He was the one who thought it up and was pitching it, trying to get it made. Now, this is one of the more talked about of canceled sequels from Leprechaun, although I don't know if it technically qualifies as canceled. I don't know if it was ever, even in pre-production. Doesn't sound like it. But this was before the Bill Clinton scandal, and he basically says that it would have followed up Leprechaun 4 in Space. The Leprechaun's dismembered body would have been found, put together by aliens, and beamed down to the White House. Some of this information comes from an interview he did with Belcourt Midnights in 2023 I found on Instagram. But basically he says he finds his way on the roof, sneaks in through the vents, and causes a bunch of chaos in the White House. Now, if that doesn't sound amazing, I don't know what does. He went on to say there would be a lot of political humor, not political humor that would necessarily take his side, because he did mention he liked Bill Clinton at the time. Again, this is before the scandal. But Democrats were in office at the time he was pitching this, so they obviously would have been made fun of. He talks about how Leprechaun 4 was just slightly less successful than Leprechaun 3. This is why they ultimately didn't go on with and make this movie. Now, to me, this sounds like a clear, winner of a horror movie. For Leprechaun 2, I can't imagine. Thankfully, Chucky explored this concept a little bit later in its series, but again, I think this is one of these that I would like to see the most. The second one we're going to talk about is Leprechaun vs. Candyman. Now, a lot of people probably already know about this one. I've seen a lot of clips going around with Tony Todd talking about it, or, just quotes of him in clips. But essentially, they pitched this to Tony Todd right after Freddy vs. Jason had success. Obviously, studios saw that and were like, hell yeah, let's get in on that money. We obviously had Alien vs. Predator. They eventually made a Lake Placid vs. Anaconda movie. I never saw it because it didn't look very good, but I'm into the concept. Tony Todd did go on to say, though, that he basically respected himself and the character of Candyman too much to do a versus movie. Now, I don't think it was about thinking he was better than Leprechaun or anything. I don't think Tony Todd looks at Warwick Davis playing Leprechaun and is like, nah, fuck that, I'm better than that guy. But I do think tonally, especially at that point, Leprechaun in the Hood had come out, and you're saying he should do a Candyman movie?
Lep in the hood, come to do no good. Lep in the hood, come to do no good. Blunt is dope, this place is hot.
No thanks. No. And who knows how far it was from being made. They might have talked to Warwick Davis already. I don't personally know. They might have had somebody pitch it to them, and they were seeing if they could even get the actors on board. It might have just been the studio being like, what do we got that we can mash together? But again, I think Tony Todd was ultimately right in his decision to turn this down, because tonally, they just don't mix.
I'm a wee green guy who's new to town. Show me what you do when you get down.
Leprechaun had fully embraced the B-movie schlock, and Candyman was basically a serious slasher. And even to call Candyman a slasher doesn't feel right. It's more of just a straight horror film. But either way, as interesting as it sounds, if they made it, believe me, I'd have watched it, but don't think that would have been a good one. The third one we're going to talk about is also pretty fascinating. This one's pitched by Darren Lynn Bousman. He's actually from my hometown, which is funny. Right next door. He's from the same town as Paul Rudd. So he's the director of several Saw films and Repo the Genetic Opera. He wanted to make a Leprechaun in the Old West movie. When I think of this, I think of basically Back to the Future, but without Marty and Doc, and it's the Leprechaun. You see the Leprechaun riding horses, he shoots people, he gets into drunken saloon brawls. This one honestly sounds pretty good too. I would watch this one. And he originally talked about this in a 2008 MTV article I found. But As recently as 2021, he said he's still interested and gave more details. He did say that the Leprechaun would need a time machine. Now, I don't know if that's something I agree with. Because he's in Leprechaun in space in the future, did he need a time machine to get there? You know what I mean? That's not necessarily the same Leprechaun either. I think we've kind of accepted that. Either way, time machine or no, I'm into this movie.
Look out, Vegas! I'm taking over!
But the time machine doesn't help the Back to the Future allegations that I mentioned before. This is funny, actually mentioning Back to the Future 3, I kind of want to switch gears and talk about that, but for another day. Why this could work, though, is the Leprechaun's very scrappy. There'd be a lot of people that would be very interested in trying to fuck this guy up in the Old West. He would have a raucous good time going into these saloons, playing cards, drinking, not to mention the gold rush, right? That's the big element here. He finds out about the gold rush and is just murdering people left and right when they find gold. Now, to me personally, that sounds like a very watchable Leprechaun movie. And maybe it's just me, because I think you just take the Leprechaun and you drop him somewhere random, like the Old West or the White House. Hell, I'll take a Leprechaun in New York City movie. Put the Leprechaun on a boat, you know what I mean? I don't even care. Which, we'll get there. There's an idea for that too. But either way, that's what's kind of cool about the Leprechaun. He's a little magical, so you have a lot of things to work around. You know what I mean? He went to space already. He can kind of do whatever he wants. And lastly, the fourth canceled Leprechaun movie. Technically not canceled. This one's just especially not canceled. It's just an idea that Warwick Davis had, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Basically, he just talked about in some interview that he wanted to see the Leprechaun take on some pirates, because pirates have treasure chests full of gold. That's one of those things you think about and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then I picture Warwick Davis killing Jack Sparrow, and, well, that makes me happy, so fuck it. Give him the money, make it. At this point, I would kill for another Warwick Davis Leprechaun movie. What's tragic about that is, within the last year, Mark Jones was talking about how he was down to make another Leprechaun movie if Warwick Davis was. Even though he had only directed the first film and went on to do Rumpelstiltskin, he still produced some of those movies. And I would have been down for them to team up one last time and do another Leprechaun movie. Sadly, with the passing of Mark Jones, we're never going to see that, but I don't know. Give Darren Lynn Bousman the Leprechaun movies, you know? Let him do the Leprechaun Old West movie. See if Brian Trenchard Smith wants to do a Leprechaun in the White House movie now. Quick thank you to my channel members and Patreon subscribers. If you want more ectoviolence, including exclusive videos and behind-the-scenes content, become a member by clicking the links in the description below.
Fuck you, Lucky Charms.